Sometimes in life we just suffer. Sometimes it's from being totally withdrawn, or so much stress that we are totally anxious, or so tired that we are totally burnt out. But our current position is not our final destination. No, indeed. There's hope. So whether it's your personal life, your career, your relationship, your business, or your job, we say there's reason to believe again. And we present from Andy's personal development, the breakout room. It's the place for health, happiness, and prosperity. Stay tuned for more. Hey, and welcome to this edition of the Breakout Room. This is your host and your partner in health, happiness, and prosperity, Andy Charles. And today we have an amazing and wonderful guest to share with you on the program. The episode is entitled Take Back Control of Your Lives with Debra Kane. And she's anxious to share vital information and quality content with regards to how we can do that. So, without further ado, as we welcome you, for those who are live and for those who will be viewing this after we have edited and posted, we welcome you live in the breakout room. Let me tell you a bit about Debra. Debra Kane is a certified life coach specializing in cognitive behavioral therapy. I hope I got that right. CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, with a deep passion for empowering women and moms to take back control of their lives. We're going to talk about everyone across the board today. Through her holistic approach, she helps clients tap into their inner joy and emotional resilience. Whether they're starting a new business, enhancing their parenting skills, or reigniting forgotten passions. Wow. Deborah's science backed methods include habit stacking, mindfulness, breath work, and more, ensuring practical, lasting results. She is the founder and CEO of dark-life.com. She also has an amazing podcast, and we'll ask a bit about that. Family, business, and beyond with Debra Kane. We'll also look at her publication, which is entitled Do You Parent with Leadership? So much to look forward to as we welcome our guests live in the breakout room, Debra Kane. Welcome, Debra.
Hello, Andy. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much.
Oh, we're excited to have you, and it's going to be a wonderful time that we will have here as we present the information and the content with value to our viewers and those who will see this after. So, I want to get right to it, Deborah. And one of the burning questions that I've had when I look at this information is why is it that there's a deep sense of feeling that many people are losing control of their lives? What are the signs that we are seeing in the world today that tells us that people are not having a handle on things as they are supposed to when it comes to their personal lives and their business and their relationships? What are some of the challenges that people are actually dealing with that causes them to lose this control?
That's a great way to start because the one thing that I think we can all agree on is I don't know of anybody that you ask them the question, what's going on? How are you doing? They don't include the line, oh, good, I'm so busy, right?
Wow.
I'm so busy. That's all we hear from everybody is I'm so busy. And without going too much into why that's not a great thing, that shows me that if you're saying you're busy all the time, there's a disconnect because we're
Mm,
all busy. all do busy things. There's
Yeah.
busy work. We all have but when you feel that you are busy all the time, enough where you don't have time to do anything. If somebody says, do you want to go to lunch this week? Oh, I don't have time. I'm too busy. Really?
Yeah.
The whole week you don't have time? That's just not true. It's what you think. You're thinking you're not busy all the time. So that's where I know there's a disconnect. There's something not right there. Um, and I think that a lot of it has to do with I'm not a negative or down with technology. We're using
Hmm.
technology right now. I use it
Yeah.
every single day of my life. So I'm not, against technology. But do we use it too often? Yes. And
Okay.
are we using it for things that are not necessary? Yes.
Wow.
I include myself by when I say this because I mean I have in my time, not too long ago, um, I have gone online to order groceries. The grocery store is 5 minutes from where I live. Like, there's no reason why I didn't have time to go to the grocery store. I mean, occasionally that happens. Yeah, we have things going on, but on a regular basis, we are letting technology do things for us that it's not necessary. It's necessary or it's convenient sometimes. But to do that all the time, it takes away from our our normal cycle of activity. Where first of all, we're sitting at a desk. We're not, walking around in the grocery store. We're not seeing other people. We're not saying hello, good morning. Sometimes when I go for a walk in the park, and I just have a habit, I always have done this all my life. I say hello to everybody I pass. And sometimes that's great. Sometimes you get a nice response. Sometimes they just look at you like, what's wrong with you, lady? Like, I don't,
Yeah, I get that too sometimes. I know what you're talking about, Deborah.
yeah, yeah,
So, I mean, well, my father taught me that. He said, everybody that you meet is a neighbor. And, at first when he said it, I really didn't get it. I didn't understand it. I was young and, full of myself. But as time went on, I realized how important that was. And you mentioned the fact that people are so busy and we are caught up in so much use of the technology, the AI input that has come onto the market from every corner of the globe, it seems. What about the more important things? You mentioned taking a walk in the park, family time, having time for lunch. How important it is that we just take time out, take a breath, Deborah, and realize we need to have a balanced life. Is that the thing that
yeah.
we are actually missing?
We are missing a lot of that. And I think people are misled by the word balance. They think balance means that it has to be 50-50. And that's really not the case. It doesn't have to be 50-50. Balance can be 30-70 and all over the place and different amounts. Balance should just feel like you are not too busy. Balance should feel like you're in alignment. And that might be a woo woo word for some people, but you should feel like yourself. And that's a big part of it. Many of us don't feel like ourselves. We have, like, if you don't mind, I'd love to ask the audience this question of
Sure.
what happened? What happened to think about the person you used to be? How long has it been since you have actually thought about that person? We've all changed over the years, hopefully mostly for the good, but we've given up some things that we used to do. Maybe we used to play an instrument. Maybe we used to, paint or play cards. I don't know. Maybe we used to be more athletic. Whatever it is, we've given things up over the past, and sometimes rightfully so, to do other things that we're passionate about. But sometimes when we think back on our lives, even not that long ago, we say, I really love doing that and I wish I could do it again. Why can't you? Right? Why can't you? That you can make time for the things that are important to you. And that's not just the people in your life. Of course that matters. Your family, your kids. I would never say to, put one over the other, but you're important too. And if you give away your power to do all the things that you love to do in order to do other things that you might love to do, what's going to happen when the kids do grow up and they grow out and they're out of the house? Or, and it's just you and your husband, and now you're like, you don't know each other anymore, right? Because you stop communicating. Communication has a lot to do with our happiness, the way we communicate, the way we, talk to each other, and the way we talk to ourselves. Many times, women especially, but some men do this also, put themselves on the back burner. They just put
Mm.
they're like, I know that I want to do this, but I'm going to leave it alone until I get this done or till this
Yeah.
happens,
Yeah.
what have you. And then those years go by and you think, well, now I can't do it because now it's too late. Now I'm too old. Now I'm too fat. Now I'm too thin. Now I don't know enough. My time is over. All of those things that we think are called limiting beliefs, which I'm sure
Yeah.
you know about. And they are
Yes.
just stories.
Indeed.
Just
Yeah.
stories that we tell ourselves. That's all they are. Stories. And we have to
Wow.
learn to change those stories to ones that serve us.
Yeah, I love that. And you sound quite passionate about giving us that information. And we thank you for that, Deborah. Tell us a bit about darklife.com. When was the inspiration available for you to get that company going? And what was the intent that you wanted to bring that company about, the impact that you wanted to make in the lives of people that you're going to serve out of this company? Tell us a bit about that.
Well, there's a lot of things that will take too long to go into that led
Sure,
me
sure.
towards that direction.
Yeah.
But in general, I will say that when I was a very young mom,
Hmm.
I was very much into reading all the things, all the parenting books, all the self-help books. I was just into that. And one thing led to another. And I was just determined. I'm like, you know what? I wanted to start doing yoga, simple thing. And like, I'm going to just, use my knowledge to be super mom. And I'm going to, have my kids do it with me. Now, I want to encourage you
Yeah.
that that's a great idea for everybody. I think it's great to this day. But there are, things that I didn't realize, like how old are your kids? So mine were pretty young at the time. They were like toddler age. And so, needless to say, here's what happened. We had a great time. We ended up though laughing and sort of like tumbling all over each other. We did everything but get our zen on, put it that way. We didn't have that calmness in that atmosphere. We had a great time, and still to this day when I talk about it, it brings me happiness, joy. I love thinking about that. But did I get the yoga in? I did not.
Mm. Oh boy.
Eventually I did.
Uh-huh.
Eventually I got it in, and it wasn't, with the kids. It was without the kids because at the time they were just too little. If they were a little
Okay.
bit older, they probably would have gotten more into it. So
Ah.
it brought me to a really, I mean, that simple thing actually made me realize that it didn't have to be the way I planned. Planning is not always a good thing. And,
Mm.
it's okay that things don't work out. Things don't always have to work out the way we want. It still brought me happiness. I still had fun with the kids, and I still, within a day or two, did my yoga. So it wasn't a terrible thing. And it made me realize something on a bigger scale that, some people would take that as, oh, I failed. I can't do it anymore. It's my kids are too little. I have to wait. I didn't wait. I kept trying to do it when I could. I scheduled it at different times at nap time. And what happens is you realize that failure is not a bad thing. Failure is a really good thing, to be honest with you, because if we're
Yeah.
failing, it means we're learning something, right? So
Right.
I like to call my good friend, who I don't know at all, Mr. Dean Graziosi. I don't know him,
Okay.
but I like to call him my good friend online because
Okay.
he gave me this quote. He says, celebrate your failures, and people think I'm
Okay.
not saying that, but I love to do that because when you fail, you are learning something, and you are getting closer to whatever success you were looking for each step along the way. So you have to fail in order to grow and learn, and we want to keep doing that. We want to keep growing. So if you're not failing, I venture to say you're not living. What are you doing?
Yeah.
You're just
Yeah.
existing. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
So that's what
So
got me started to
yeah. Yeah.
actually make some business. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Great. Thank you for sharing, Deborah. I often remember the term "fail big." or go home. And some time ago, someone asked me if um, FAIL, the innits, what it meant to me. And I said, well, it just means that I didn't succeed. And they said, how about you look at it from this perspective? First attempt in learning. And I was like, okay, wow. So it just mirrors what you said, that you're
Yeah,
reminded by Dean Graziosi to celebrate your failures. And he's
exactly.
right, because from those steps, I consider them as steps or opportunities. That is where the learning process came. So thank you for sharing, Deborah. Tell us a bit about your podcast and what sort of drives you to give the information that you do to your audience. What are their expectations of you from the podcast?
I realized with a podcast, my podcast is fairly new. It's only been up since July, I believe. So it's fairly
Okay.
new. And
Okay.
but what I realized is I can reach a lot more people just through the podcast because you don't necessarily have to be a follower or a client or on my email list. Anybody can watch a podcast. And so and the
Yeah.
information, I really am passionate about the information that I put out. I like to have fun, with my guests, or even if I'm just talking on it myself.
Yeah. I know that from
Because
my experience.
yeah, I don't want I don't want it to be, lecture, because nobody's going to sit and listen to me talk for 40 minutes if it sounds like a lecture. But if you make it entertaining, and that's my personality anyway. I kind of do that. So, and I am very passionate though about the fact that you don't have to waste time. And I do gear a lot of my teaching towards but it applies to everybody. And if I don't really believe in regrets, but I wasted a lot of years, not just months. I wasted years of my life thinking that I had to wait to do things. And
Wow.
it's a sad reality when you wake up and realize that, because some of that waiting is not just about creating a business or doing an old hobby. Some of that waiting is not going bike riding with your kids because you want to lose 20 pounds, not enjoying the pool because, again, you wanted to wait till you lost that 20 pounds.
Yeah.
All of that nonsense that we think we have to wait on it and waste time on it. And then years go by and you're like, what happened? And then you start to get those thoughts. It's too late. I screwed up. I failed. Right. So again, you have to and the way, by the way, you explained that rethinking that
Yeah.
you had done is an exact example of one of the techniques we use. And
Uh huh.
that's why I like to put a lot of scientific facts behind what I do. I'm not a scientist by any means, but I enjoy learning about science. I'm kind of a science geek, I guess. And so when so if there's any kind of scientific fact
Yeah.
that I can add in,
Yeah.
and give you the proof of what why it works, that's just my part of me that wants to know the why. And so I
Okay.
feel it's good for others too.
I love that. Which leads me to my next question, Deborah. I'm thinking about this field that you are specializing in. It's something that is new to me, and I'm sure it's probably new to a lot of people. But maybe it is not so new in terms of how it is described. Help us to understand what is involved in cognitive behavioral therapy from your perspective.
Okay. So I do want to make it clear I'm not a therapist.
Uh
So
huh.
cognitive behavioral therapy is
Yeah.
used by therapists, but it's also used by coaches. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Anybody can, get trained and educated and learn how to
Yeah.
do this. And so what I use it for is it's, and I like to use it, by the way, along with the NLP part, which
Mm-hmm.
is neuro linguistic programming.
Yes.
And because a lot of those things overlap. So, for instance, some of the CBT techniques, CBT is just talk therapy. It's talk therapy, learning how to reframe a negative thought, let's say, into a more positive one. And it's not about ignoring our negative thoughts. It's about acknowledging that they're there and knowing how to reframe it. Let's say, you have people that say all the time, I'm no good at that. I can't, I don't know. Let's say I can't do push-ups. I can't do push-ups. I'm really bad at them and I'm never going to do them. So then part of CBT is just changing that negative thought into a more positive, like, well, I can't do a lot of them, but can I at least do two? And guess what? NLP um, calls it reframing, but it's doing the same thing, except in NLP, you're asking questions. You're saying to yourself, and this is important if it's a more complicated subject, you're saying, well, is that true that you can't do any push-ups? And then you ask yourself, no, it's not true. I probably could do one. Maybe I could do two. I don't know. And then you say, okay, so it's not true what you're thinking. So how do
Hmm.
you make that true? How
Right.
do you not make it true? How do you make it more of a positive on your end? And that's where you say, okay, so I can't do 10 like you're asking me to, but I can try to do five. And if I can do three, that's it. So it's all about what you're telling yourself and the way you're thinking about it.
Yeah.
So really, it's all about perception and communication.
Oh, okay. I love it. It reminds me of what we have been taught in our basic coaching manual, neural plasticity. And the basic principle is that the
Mm.
mind has the ability to rewire, restructure, re engage at any given point in time. It just takes the will of the person who owns the mind or the brain to get it done. So I appreciate that and thank you so much. I want to look at the publication and I want to bring it up on the screen so that people know exactly what we are speaking about. And I want you to tell us, the audience, of course, where the idea came from and what is the basic message that you want folks to get. Do you parent with leadership? And leadership skills in parenting, I know, is extremely important because of the challenges that parents face in the world today. What are some of these things that they would learn from your publication?
So this book it's a short book
Yeah.
that I put together. I have a couple of parenting courses. That's where I
Yeah.
started first doing is a course. And I kind of put it together from that course so that it was, again, available to more people. And
Mm-hmm.
in this, there are so many parenting methods out there. There's conscious parenting, positive parenting, authoritative parenting. I mean,
Yeah.
there's so many, I can't even list them. And
Okay.
I feel for parents today because when I was, a young mom with my first baby, I did read everything out there, but you had a very limited supply. You went to the library or the bookstore and you bought some books. And so that's how old I am. And so you read whatever
Come on, Deborah. You
you
look pretty
could.
young still.
But
Come
today's
on. Come on.
okay, it's all the way we think about it, right?
I
But
guess. I
in
guess.
today's
Yes.
world, they have so much available online that if you
Yeah.
just type in on Google, if you just type in parenting methods or best parenting or anything like that, you're going to get such a list that is overwhelming just to look at. And then you have to compare them and say, why is this one better than that? It is overwhelming. And it's also a lot of people telling you what you should do, what you should do, what you should do. So what I have done, and I don't say any of those are bad. Some of them are great methods. But what I found is that all of them lacked one thing, and that is to make it clear to the reader that you should not only can but should um, customize these methods to fit your lifestyle.
Okay.
I'm all about
Okay. Okay.
creating routines, right? You can't
Mm-hmm.
create a routine or a habit unless it fits your lifestyle. It's just not
Yeah.
going to stick. So, in order to do that, you customize things. So, I take what science tells us are the best things that regarding parenting methods, and
Mm-hmm.
I show you how to customize them to make them fit. I mean, people today still, for instance, a really short example, a lot of people still use timeouts. um, and timeout, if that term is used incorrectly. So timeout isn't a bad thing if
Yeah.
it's used correctly, but it's not. Timeout, we take the
Okay.
kids and we say, they did something wrong. They threw a ball in the house. Okay, you're not supposed to do that. So go sit over there in the chair for 10 minutes or 5 minutes or whatever. That is teaching the child nothing. It taught them
Mm.
absolutely nothing.
Wow.
It stopped them from doing the bad behavior, but it taught them
Yeah.
nothing.
Okay.
And, a lot of people will argue, well, they're supposed to be thinking about what they did. Yeah, supposed to be, but they're not. Timeout is used for little children, usually for like 6 and under. So are they thinking about what they just did? They are not. They're sitting there thinking about what's going on over there, what they're going to do when they get up.
Mm.
They're not thinking about that. They don't have that kind of logical brain to think
Okay.
that. So
Okay.
it's not teaching them anything. So things like that, we show you how to incorporate, basically this a similar technique. It's not called timeout. It doesn't really have a name. It's just you're telling the child, you're giving them the rules ahead of time, which should never be a laundry list. It should be maybe 3 to 5 rules that, depending on their age, they can understand. And then you take that, they know the rules ahead of time. You can give them a warning. If they are only 4 or 5 years old, it's okay to give them a warning. Kids are learning. They're not doing things purposely to annoy you or to
Yeah.
be bad kids. They're not bad. They are just learning, and they're forgetting, and they don't always remember. That's how we learn is, if you did something wrong and somebody said, oh, that was really bad, go sit at your desk, that's not helping you either, and it would make you feel bad.
Okay.
So you want the child to learn.
Right.
So to learn, we're going to tell them how they can take that, or rather, we're going to explain to them, this is what they did. We can give them a warning, and then they do it again. Okay, so I'm going to take this ball away from you. You'll get it back tomorrow. That's a logical consequence, which is really, that's an easy explanation or example, I should say. But logical consequences are hard on parents. They are really hard.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. I love
I
it.
mean, I can
I love it.
let me give you one example of a hard, just a real quick hard example,
Sure.
um,
Sure. Sure.
is something that we're all guilty of. Again, including myself. Your child forgets his homework at home. You're on your way to work, or you're a stay-at-home mom or dad or whatever, and you're like, oh, this is really important project. I'm going to bring it to the school. So you're helping your child. It feels good. It sounds like a logical thing to do. But it taught your child that they did not need to be responsible for that project. Now, we're assuming the kid is
Wow.
maybe
Yeah.
10,
Yeah.
11, 12. That's their responsibility. So
Yeah.
we've all done it. I wouldn't say, I don't want any parents to beat themselves up. We've all done it. But to do it all the time is teaching them they don't have to be responsible. Someone will help them out. Someone will kind of do it for them. So that's where the logical consequences are really hard to deal with.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. I love that. I love that. You were very detailed and very focused and quite specific. And it is challenging, I know, for a lot of parents with regards to the times that we have and the many distractions that exist in the world, including the social media platforms and the stuff that they put out there. It's amazing how some parents keep it together. I'm glad I'm kind of past that stage now, but I kind of empathize with those who still have that challenge, whether it's a 13, 14, 15, or even sometimes a 16-year-old that's still under the same roof. It
Mhm.
could be very challenging at times. We have had an audience bouncing in and out, and we have one like. I don't know what they liked. I wish they would come back and say so I can let you know, Deborah. So we appreciate that. We have been listening to Debra Kane speaking about take back control of your lives. We just give her a moment to catch a breath as we showcase Phoebe Trotman. Phoebe Trotman has been on the show before. She is an author and an entrepreneur, a retired professional footballer playing for a national team in Canada. and she's written some really, really tremendous information in her two publications. Never Quit on a Bad Day, first dealing with athletes and their stories, and the second one dealing with entrepreneurs and their stories. She's going to help us now as we bring information to you with regards to our third podcast, Breaking Out of Depression. So stand by for a moment. We'll be right back with Deborah. Don't go anywhere, folks.
Hi, friends. Phoebe Trotman here. I wanted to just thank Andy, Charles, and the team for what they're doing with their broadcast. One of the things that stood out to me is that they truly care. They are there every single Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. Atlantic Standard Time, sharing what they have gone through, their experiences. They have guests who have gone through real challenges, and those guests are sharing what they've done to push through those challenges. And but one of the things the reason I want to encourage you to tune in is because it helps you realize you're not alone. There is a community of people who care. There are people out there who've gone through challenges and they're sharing what they did to push through. And so it's a show of hope. It's a show of encouragement. It's also a show where you can learn. You can learn a tip or two to help you along your journey. So I encourage you again, tune in every single Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. Atlantic Standard Time. They have a great lineup of guests. They themselves, they share their experiences, and I know it will help you through your journey. So I wanted to wish you continued success, good health, and many blessings in 2024 and beyond.
Thank you so much, Phoebe, for your support and your commitment to our program. And may you have much success with your publications. Never quit on a bad day, speaking about the stories of amazing athletes as well as entrepreneurs. But for now, the limelight is on Debra Kane. Take back control of your lives. So, Deborah, with regards to the people that you work with, the people that you coach, the people that you help and make a positive and endearing impact on, what are some of the challenges that they come to you with, that they express, that is giving them a hard time, and they're looking for a way out? They're looking to just free themselves and have a better opportunity at enjoying their lives and actually take back the control. What are some of the confessions that you hear from the people that you serve?
Well, one of the biggest issues is around screen time. Um,
Ah.
yeah, and I mean that could be a whole podcast on its own, but that is definitely one of the biggest issues today, and it's because it brings along with it so much guilt. You know, I mean, parents are well aware that they don't want their kids on screens too much,
Okay.
and yet it is there. You know, it's hard enough when they're teenagers, it's hard enough, but you can then at least install limits on, maybe from the time, I don't know, I'm not an authority on what age is appropriate, but let's say for sake of argument, somewhere between 11 and 12, let's say, through the teen years, you
Mm-hmm.
can put limits and hope for the best, because that's all we can do, because that's what
Yeah.
sometimes they know more than us. But for kids younger than that, they are on screens as well. And I will tell you, um, even for parents, when you said you have empathy for those people who are still dealing with teens in the house,
Yeah.
it reminded me that I am so glad that you said that, because if more people would just have that empathy in them to think about it, like when you see a mom in the store and her kids are having a tantrum, it's not helpful for you to say something negative, but it's also not helpful for you to go to her and say, honey, just enjoy it while you can, because it's going to be gone. That's not helpful, because she's not thinking that way yet. So in both times, it's just like, maybe just be quiet and pray for her or something along those lines. Or you could be helpful in different ways, I guess. But
Yes.
our kids, there's a thing I don't like. I'm going to be honest. Personally, just in my own mind, I do not care for kids to be on screens while they're eating, like at a
Mm-hmm.
restaurant.
Yeah.
Now, parents are only using that because it's keeping the kids occupied and quiet,
Mm-hmm.
and it works. And it does work because they're glued to that screen.
Okay.
What it's taking away, they're just not realizing it, because they are feeling guilty for having the screens because they know that it's not a great thing. In some way, they know it. So they have that guilt. But what they don't bring into their own awareness is that the kids are now lacking how to communicate. They don't know how to have a conversation sometimes. Kids
Wow.
learn. When we were little, we sat around the table, with our parents or parent, if not every night, most nights. And we usually had a once a week like dinner with the extended family, right? Back then in the day. And so you're sitting around the table, even as a kid, you might not be saying a lot, but you're listening. You're listening
Mm,
to the conversation, and
yeah.
you know that you're part of it. And I think that's lacking in a lot of homes today because the kids don't think of it as a time to talk, and they are used to talking, to each other, maybe playing around. They don't know how to have, I tell my parents, if nothing else, figure out a way that you can use the screen time at a different time, maybe while you're making dinner, so that they are quiet or calm while you're making dinner, something like that. And that way at dinner time, you're the parent, you're the adult, and you know how to talk. So you can be making sure you're including those kids in your conversation. Talk to your husband or wife or to your kids and just tell them, or use it for more meaningful conversation than how was your day. Kids don't know how to answer how was your day. It's like, did you have art today? How was your friend, Johnny today? Or, did your teacher do this one? Like, be really, really specific so that
Specific.
they
Yeah.
can answer. Yeah,
Yeah.
so they can
Yeah.
answer you with an intelligent response, and they will. They
Yeah.
will. They need to know that this is the time that they should do that and communicate, and it makes them feel like they're more part of the family, just like having more responsibility at home will allow them to feel like they're not just in that family, but they're a part of it. They have a say in what goes on there. So it really, kids thrive on routines that a lot of times, busy parents don't have time for routines. They're like, we just do what we can when we can. And sometimes that's how you have to do things. But on an everyday basis, if you incorporate more routine into the house, and a routine doesn't have to be so strict. I'm all about flexibility. Routine doesn't have to be, dinner at 5, bath at 6. Time means nothing to kids, the time on the clock. It just has to be a pattern where we do this after we do this. That's
Okay.
and they will thrive on that. They want to help. They want to be part of the whole family.
Yeah. Yeah. And they should be. They're entitled to it.
Yes. Yes.
Wow. Okay. So you in your information, I see something that I think is very important and instructive. You said one of your clients, Janet, was able to overcome her anxiety and rebuild her confidence to pursue her passion for teaching. And her story is just one example of the many transformations I've facilitated. What are some of the things that you would say to people who are, okay, parents like Janet, for example, and they still want to pursue some worthwhile thing that they've always had, maybe on their bucket list or list of things to do, but they never got the opportunity because of parenting, marriage, having to see about the kids, being the homemaker and stuff. But what it is that you would have said to Janet to help her or done during that program or exercise that you have created that would make the difference and would help others in a similar position to realize they can still pursue some of
Mhm.
the desires that they have, even though they are faced with certain challenges.
Well, Andy, it all comes down to a couple of things, but it starts with this. I'm going to say this. I would say first and foremost, to stop making excuses. You are making excuses, and we start with mindset, with self-awareness for a reason. Everything I do starts with mindset, and even if they don't know it, because some people don't want to hear about that, but you really have to be more aware of how you are thinking and what you're saying in order to level up your game, no matter what it is. And so when you are saying something like, in this case, in Janet's case, where she had a passion to teach and didn't, thought she couldn't do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is something that's my heart because I'm a teacher at heart, and I never
Right.
pursued teaching as a career,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
all my jobs had something to do with teaching in some way. And so it comes down to making excuses. You're making excuses of why you can't do something, but the excuse is not helping you. It's just it's hurting you because you think it comes back to limiting beliefs. You think that you can't do it because your kids are too little, you don't have time to study, you don't have time to go back to school, it's just too much, like you're too old to do this. And of course we know that's not true, but we tell ourselves all these stories of why it is. So you start with being more self-aware and learning how to react to your own thoughts. And from there, you start to get better at telling yourself the real truth of, this is going to be hard, but I can do it. I can figure out a way of getting help for this and making this work. Maybe it might take me longer than, the normal, person who doesn't have kids, but I can still do it. So we figure out ways to do it, but we have to start with figuring out ourselves first. All starts with self.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that. I love it. Thank you for sharing, Deborah. How can people? So I'm gonna put up some stuff on the screen. I now have 3 likes for you, but apparently they are shy. They don't want to make any comments, so they're just giving you likes. That's good. You'll take that. I'm gonna put up your stuff on the screen, but tell us which one is more effective or efficient for getting you. Different
Yeah.
people have different ways of connecting on the social media platforms, and how they can get your book as well as tune in to the podcast.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Sure. So yes, you can definitely find me on social everywhere. You can DM me on Instagram if you don't want to go on the website. You can DM me on Instagram. I'm going to tell everybody right off the bat: don't bother messaging me on Facebook because I'll never see it. I
Okay.
never see those. Don't do it.
Okay.
Um, but if you do go on the website on daclife.com, by the way, it is DAC dash. You have to have a dash in
Okay.
there. Somebody
Okay.
has DAC Life. I don't know. So you have to put a dash. But it's dak-life.com. If you go on there, I do have some free resources for you. So, go and search those out, some priority planners and different things, some guides for parents as well. So you can find a lot of information there. And my podcast is available wherever podcasts are, also on YouTube. So if you go to YouTube, I someone told me, maybe because it's new, that they tried to put in family business and no family friends and business and they couldn't find me, and I'm like, really? It comes up on my, I don't know why they couldn't find me, maybe because it's new, but if you
Yeah.
put in my name, eventually you will get to the right part of YouTube for that. It is linked on my website though.
Okay.
And of course my book is on
Okay. Great.
Amazon where everything is.
All right, Deborah. Thank you so much. We appreciate that, and we appreciate you. And we just have about 1 minute to go, and I would like to take that time to ask you if you have any parting words. Let's just imagine that you could talk to the entire population, 7.8 billion people or so. What would you say to them? Something that you want them to take heart and also incorporate in their lives as well. What would you say?
Sure. So, since we are talking so much about ourselves and self awareness and where it starts, I'm going to ask everybody out there to just think of something that you are thinking about that is holding you back. Think of some little or big thing that you know is holding you back. Okay, just give it some thought and then think of what it would be like if you didn't allow that to hold you back. And then, if you're really brave, I have a tiny little challenge for you. Over the next week, just take the time to notice whenever this limiting belief pops up. Take the time to notice it, acknowledge it, and then consciously replace it with a more empowering one. Try it for just 1 week and you will probably see the difference in a very short amount of time, and it'll get you doing it more often.
Oh, yeah. Okay, wonderful. That's a great note to end this episode on. We have been listening to Debra Kane, Take Back Control of Your Lives, the title of the episode. We have 3 likes, so we thank you in the audience for supporting Debra on this episode, the Breakout Room podcast. And for those who would be viewing this later as it is edited and aired on the other social media platforms as well, we shout you out, and we hope that the information would somehow bring some light and hope to you with regards to how you can take back control of your lives, even if you're caught up in a situation where you feel that there's something you can do. As Deborah said, stop making excuses and replace all the negative thoughts with
Exactly.
positive ones and see how that works. Okay, so we want to wish you all the best, and we hope that you'd continue to have a positive mind, that you reach to health, happiness, and prosperity. This is Andy of Andy's Personal Development, together with my guest, Debra Kane, saying bye for now. So long. Godspeed. God bless. Shalom. Namaste. Until next
Thank
time, people. Stay safe.